Hey everyone, Michael here again on the Archangel 15. Thanks for taking the time to stop in and watch my presentation. Today I finally want to delve into my suppressed medical science video. This covers a lot of various stuff, so please stay with me if you have the time. As always, I like to start with a disclaimer. The information here within is not intended to treat, cure, mitigate, or diagnose any medical condition. Additionally, I am not a medical doctor. Please consult a licensed physician in your state before you make any medical decisions, and also do your own due diligence. This presentation is for entertainment and educational purposes only. I should not be held accountable for any legal actions in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania or anywhere for that matter. By watching this disclaimer, you agree not to take any legal action against me. If you do not like or disagree with what I'm saying, you should stop watching immediately. Again, this disclaimer vindicates me from any legal action anywhere. That being said, much of what I'm going to talk about here is generally accepted by the medical community and basically common knowledge and so forth. Much of it is not, and deeply suppressed and disparaged and considered pseudoscience, you could say. Again, I'm going to cover a lot of various stuff and delve into a lot of various topics kind of all over the place, so I try to keep some conformity and continuity to it. Oxygen therapy and O2 therapy using 35% food-grade hydrogen peroxide is a perfect example of this suppression. I encourage you to check out my separate presentation I recently just did on this. I felt compelled to do it, to dedicate a separate video and parlay it into this one. Please consider that there's about 2,000 companies listed on the stock exchange and engaged in oncology research all over the country and world, and yet basically I feel like the H2O2 oxygen therapy is pretty much one of the major suppressed cures, and you kind of got to ask yourself, you know, what's going on. I said in my past presentations, using a quote from the late great Ted Gunderson, you need to follow the money and look for the lies. The information in this presentation is a consortium of many hours of research, books, and even experimentation that I have done. I have constantly questioned and challenged many of the preconceived standards in the medical community. In many cases, these thugs that we call doctors are purveyors of lies and pushers of placebo and poison. I have respect, great respect, for the few good doctors that are out there, like Dr. Edward Group from the Global Healing Network. I wholeheartedly believe that humans could probably live in excess of 200 years of age. In 2015, I had a major epiphany when I watched a presentation that Dr. Group did on harmful consumer hygiene products and how they disrupt the body's endocrine system and other bodily functions. This presentation has since been removed from YouTube. Basically, I came to have a serious distrust for pretty much all consumer products. I no longer use toothpaste, deodorant, soap, laundry detergent, shampoo, shaving cream, or really anything for that matter. All you need to do is look at the ingredients on the back to see for yourself. The biggest noticeable difference that I incurred was when I stopped using deodorant and antiperspirants, even the ones supposedly with no aluminum and they're all natural. They just deeply disrupt your body's natural lymphatic detoxification process, causing toxins to be trapped into your body. Like I said, had a major moment in my health and wellness when I stopped using this. For like the first couple, like 2-3 weeks, I was kind of hesitant on. I used to, like I said, use all natural, no aluminum stuff, and thought that I was doing the right thing. And I stopped using those, and I noticed like a burning, tingling under my arms, and like a horrible smell would emanate. And it was like I said, your body's lymphatic detoxification process. The smell diminishes somewhat. If you drink a lot of plastic or water out of plastic bottles, which you know I'm a big advocate against that in my other presentations, you would actually smell like burning plastic emanating from under your arms. I believe the aluminum and other products, aluminum and other stuff in these products, deeply disrupt your natural biomagnetism and lower your overall level of consciousness. I'll get into biomagnetism later on in this presentation. If you have watched my past videos, you know that I'm not a supporter of vaccines, and the thought of that makes me sick to my stomach when you think about what they actually do to children. against their own will. They have no say, and it's pure evil. I assure you that many of the rich elites do not give them to their kids. There are many accounts of people giving them to their children and never being the same again afterwards. States like Maryland don't have homeschooling, and basically you have to send your kids to school, and vaccines are a requirement. I do believe they started with humble beginnings. Edward Jenner invented the cowpox vaccine in 1796, and there's other ones that really changed the course of medical science for the good years ago. But I think that it's basically, you don't really know who you can trust at this point in time. If you look at the product inserts and look at the ingredients like mercury, aluminum, all kinds of nasty, bad stuff, neurotoxins, and so forth. Please reach out to your state and local representatives, congressmen, senators, governors, and even sheriffs to fight for vaccination truth and the freedom to choose what you want for your family. I've noticed many discernible differences, just in general observation, especially where I live here in Amish country, between kids who have been vaccinated and kids that have not been vaccinated. They have a certain different look to them, and I can actually go up to people and say, "Are your kids vaccinated?" And usually they say no when I ask them. I believe that if we weren't vaccinated, we would exude a lot more human potential. People could probably even levitate and move objects with their mind. I know that sounds a little far-fetched, but there are actually accounts of this, and I do believe that. While on the topic of the Amish as well, another thing is like our immune system. I think that we have a tendency to be a little too cleanly with things. I think if you were to, like, I don't want to say live dirtier, but expose yourself almost to more bacteria and other pathogens, you'd probably have a more built-up immune system. Like I say, you took like a flosser or a toothpick and it was on the ground and you just put it in your mouth. Not that I'm saying to do this, but you would probably eventually, like I said, almost self-vaccinate yourself with just various bacteria and stuff you would be exposed to. It would build up a natural immunity to this. I'm also not a proponent of most pharmaceutical and over-the-counter drugs. I believe that in many cases they are nothing more than placebo and poison. If you do take pills, I encourage you to read once again the product pamphlet insert and specifically look at the active and inactive ingredients. For your information, there are a ton of actually good drugs out there made in other countries that for some reason or other aren't allowed into this country. I'm not going to get into that specific ones, but you can take my word for it. You probably can't search them on the internet, but there are some good ones out there. SSRI and antidepressants and related drugs basically shut off your neurological pathways and inhibit your God-given potential, ultimately desensitizing you and zombifying you. In my humble opinion, most ailments or medical needs can be cured or mitigated with alternative holistic medicine and Eastern medical practices and therapy. I don't take any medication and prefer to keep it that way. Please also look into the ingredients of the food you eat. It gives me bad anxiety when I read labels on the back of most foods. Things like xanthan gum, dyes, preservatives, corn syrup don't belong in your body and ultimately disrupt your brain function and are basically there to cause other underlying issues that will eventually cause you to have to go to the doctor and get prescriptions or buy over-the-counter stuff and so forth. I try to avoid also eating wheat and red meat when I can, but I still have acquired taste for a good steak every now and again. I think it's almost cannibalistic to eat mammals. That's just myself. I prefer to eat like a lot of fish, some chicken, and other lean cuts of meat as well. Not going to get into talking about various diets like ketogenic, but I do recommend eating actual lean substance like fish, nuts, fruits, beans, and high protein substance that like doesn't have any additive to it, and is like actual food, not chemicals and processed ingredients. There's other stuff that's very, very good for you, like like miracle foods and so forth, like olive oil and garlic. I'm not really going to get into that. A lot of that stuff you can find on your own. I'm trying to stay more off the beaten path with this presentation, if you can kind of feel me. I'm also a very big advocate of fasting as well. The Bible talks about it, and But I think it's good to detoxify your body and like naturally cleanse, maybe like a 1-2 day fast. Personally, I feel a major difference when I do it. When you look at nature, most things in nature do best with a minimal amount of substance. Like, you don't really see like deer or ducks or birds or anything else that's like fat and overweight. Like you don't see it in nature. Everything pretty much eats bare minimal and does pretty good. I can't emphasize enough how important it is to drink clean water, which in this day and age is so hard to do. I go into great detail in this in my Zio Global Truth videos, and even do a presentation with plastic water bottles. This is the kingpin of all conspiracies, in my opinion, or at least one of them. Most people do not realize that the water supply is completely controlled. Even if you have a well, they go through your treatment system and pressure tanks, etc. Rich people can afford high quality treatment systems, and I'm not going to go into mineralization and pH level and all that, but please take my word for it that the plastic water bottles are no good, and look into everything, have your water tested, and do your own analysis. Ultimately, the petrochemical residue from the plastic water bottles ends up in the plastic and eventually gets into your endocrine system and colludes your brain and inhibits your true potential. I'm going to talk about the endocrine system in here real quick. I just want to show a little chart, a big chart kind of. I don't know if you can see it, but this is male and female. You got various glands in your brain: the hypothalamus, the pituitary gland, the pineal gland. Gets into your adrenals. For males, the testes; females, the ovaries, the thyroid, various things. It's all tied together, and it's major suppression of science. And they don't teach this in even a lot of medical schools, I believe. And it's very interesting when you start to put all the pieces of the puzzle together. The true nature of the endocrine system is, like I said, deeply suppressed. The stuff I mentioned earlier, like fluoride, deodorant, the fragrances in the soap, and other harmful products, ultimately disrupt the whole system. In case you're unfamiliar with it, essentially it has to do with a release of hormones by the glands, like the pineal and the pituitary specifically. There's like, the pineal gets like deeply into sacred geometry, like the pineapple and all this other stuff, and it's also known as the third eye. It's like where you get a lot of your intuitive senses from, psychic abilities, and if you were able to levitate and move stuff, it would probably come from that. Also the hippocampus, hypothalamus, so forth. The adrenals also very important, your kidneys. The hormones are pretty much like sophisticated messengers and play a major function in our brain chemistry. This is an understatement. I mean, it's basically how everything like communicates with each other and the whole bigger picture. There's also a very interesting connection between these glands and our secretion of scent pheromones. Without getting deep into psychological nomenclature, I'd like to think that there are codes basically in our scent. They play a vital role in our interaction and attraction to others, and there's a major element of mystery to this. When I stopped using deodorant and other products, I noticed a major difference in how my body reacted to even my own scent. Also part of this, to like the other five senses, like hearing, is like binaural tone recognition. I don't have time to go into great depth on this, but basically sound is measured in hertz or frequency. Certain frequencies impact our endocrine system and cause various subsequent emotional response. And everybody, you may know what I'm talking about, people who are into this stuff and everything, and other people may not. But consider like when you watch a multi-million-dollar movie production and how they manipulate your attentive responses with various soundtracks and overtones. I encourage you to look into the solfeggio scale if you haven't heard of it or looked into it yet. Someday I'd like to do a separate presentation on this, as well as violins. There is a definite reason why the old ones and good ones are very coveted and so expensive. The elites, they're like real big into this as well. You can buy like one of the most highly coveted classic cars, like a 67 or 69 Yenko Camaro for like $300,000. There's only, I don't know how many made, but if you wanted to try to buy a Stradivari or a Del Gesù violin, you're looking at like $10-20 million, and good luck even finding one. Like basically, there's like consciousness to these instruments. Particularly involving this conspiracy particularly involves the A and the E strings. When played open, they hit 440 Hertz and 639 Hertz respectively. Side note, my favorite classical display of violins is Scheherazade by Nicholas Rimsky-Korsakov. Particularly in the first 2 minutes, you can kind of get a good example of what I'm trying to purvey there. Years ago, I read the book Tuning the Human Biofield by Aline Day McCusick. She's a great resource I've talked to in the past, and she gets into other deep things like physics and so forth with like aether and plasma and just other things that you should probably know about that you're not going to learn in school. Showed this book in my past presentations. Very good book. Here's one of the tuning forks. I'll show you. Always want to strike them on a puck. Real interesting stuff. I've noticed major results. Sometime if I ever get more money, I would like to buy like a whole set of them and do some more experimentation. That was an unweighted one I showed you. There's also weighted ones that you use in the field, and there's like a whole separate science, just like acupuncture. It's called acutonics, where you put them on various chakra points, and it's very, very interesting. Like our Earth, our body has various chakra points, and there's information stored in these chakras. When you understand quantum physics, you understand that light, energy, and vibration and sound are pretty much all one and the same. I don't want to get off topic and talk about wave theory, string theory, or the electric universe, but when you understand how the body works, it's basically run by electrical impulses that flow through our central nervous system. And also, while on the topic of this is by far my favorite book, and I really, really encourage you to read it. I don't even think like I said, many doctors read it. It's The Body Electric, the Foundation of Life, or Electromagnetism and the Foundation of Life, by Dr. Robert Becker and Gary Selden. Gets into some incredible science and various stuff. I don't know why more doctors really don't practice this type of science. It's laid out in this book. Real quick side note on the book. It was written in 1989, long before the advent of Wi-Fi, 5G, and all the other electrical infrastructure that we have today. It is explicit about electropollution and the deleterious effects it has on our physical and psychological well-being. There is a major suppression about this by our own government, who covertly engages in advanced psychological warfare projects that are used to control us and kill us. Even keeping a cell phone near your head or in your pocket is not good. Also, like, they pretty much have the whole country blanketed with this electropollution now, with all the cell phone towers that are everywhere. And I know we all like the modern conveniences of technology, but it's really not good, and you're not going to see studies anywhere in this country about it. The energy industry also deeply suppresses the science in this. If you ever call them and try to talk to them about power lines and stuff, they'll always say that their stuff operates within safe parameters, and they'll deny studies that basically correlate higher cancer rates and suicide rates to people who live under the power lines. And it's really a joke. Very sad. I think Canada and Europe have some open studies about it and so forth. When I travel out into the ocean, or when I went to Russia, which I talk about in my other Zio Global Truth presentation, I noticed a huge, alarming, discernible difference between that and this country. And also, I believe that like certain areas where the rich elites live are less blanketed by it as well. When I went to Russia, I noticed I felt like I was back in 1994. It was really that big of a difference. They basically wanted like a psycho-civilized society and to control everybody and keep their thinking in a certain waveform and everything else. While on the topic of neurological impulses and brain chemistry, I want to talk about the power of positive thinking. I'm not talking about the book with the same name either. A long time ago, I read a little book, Quantum Faith. It made me understand that thoughts, even in their most minute form, are matter. Thus, if you think positive thoughts, surround yourself with positive people, places, and things, good manifestations are more than likely to occur. The opposite is true for negative thinking. We all know an example of a negative person in our life and how they just seem to like bask in negativity and bad things always happen to them, and so forth. It is very important to stay optimistic even when things are bad. Consider the movie Castaway and Tom Hanks and his imaginary friend Wilson. Like I said, I can't emphasize enough the power of positive thinking and a positive state of mind. It's kind of relative to the placebo effect. Sometime in the future, I would actually like to get a book and read more into the placebo effect, but it really amazes me when you look at the results of blind studies done with pharmaceutical drugs, and you understand that the murder they get away with all of this. It's really interesting when you study human nature. So on a quantum level, a lot of the keys to general health and wellness are self-evident. Like the makeup of our food, trying to eat all organic food when possible, drink clean water, and not putting other bad stuff in your body like chemicals, drugs, alcohol, caffeine, and so forth. Not a huge fan of a lot of vitamins, mainly because of, like I said, my distrust for just about everything. I really believe that almost every consumer product is like not good for us, and the ones that are supposed to be good for us are not as good as we probably think they are. I do occasionally take certain vitamins. I'm a big fan of vitamin D3. I like all my vitamins in liquid form as well. The Global Healing Center is a really good brand. The D3, when you take it, your body actually like craves it. I like to put all of them like under my tongue sublingually. They go pretty much directly into your bloodstream, or a little bit more bioavailable, and like I said, you notice like a very fast results. The D3 also, when wintertime, when you're in the middle of winter and you're inside less, getting a lot less natural sunlight, and days are shorter, your body sometimes is deficient in it more than in the summer. The chemtrails in the air also block out a lot of the D3, and I believe that's one of their many functions. Again, I cover that in another presentation. B12 is another liquid vitamin that I also take. Very important as well as also the other B complex vitamins. I notice very like quick active results. Like they have these berry drinks that have a lot of B complex. I like those as well. I also take nascent iodine on occasion too for thyroid health and detoxification. And I can't emphasize enough how important high concentration vitamin C is for you. I drink a whole squeezed lemon at least once a week, maybe more. Also eat I like to have California navel oranges and other citrus. I like high concentration. There's actually a great deal of suppression of studies with the high concentration vitamin C. There's like people, they actually have used them for smoking cessation and other things as well. Copper and zinc are also important for you. Copper has been taken out of just about all the foods, and a copper deficiency creates a subsequent iron toxicity in the body. I wear a copper bracelet and ultimately feel a difference. I have several different ones I've made. It gets into biomagnetism. It's besides just the trace elements and minerals. I think it gets into like the way the electricity flows through your body as well. And also the D3 used to be in all kinds of foods. I've heard before that they used to put it in beer. They used to put it in like everything, and they know how vital it is to your immune system, and that's why they pretty much took it out. There are way too many natural cures and herbal remedies to go into here, but consider that everybody's physiology is uniquely different and reacts differently to different stuff. So like when you start getting into some of the exotic things like the Eastern medicine that I like, herbs and various spices, you can really do like I don't want to say harm, but have bad effects from some of it. So really, watch out what you do and start in moderation and use your own discretion. Talk to a doctor. I'm not a doctor, once again. So always be careful with the exotic stuff. One spice that some people consider an herb, I consider a spice, that I really, really like is ginger. I like to drink ginger tea. It's really hard to get in regular grocery stores for some reason. You need to get it online, or I go to an Asian market myself. It is a natural detoxifier, and I feel like it stimulates the mind. It is also very good for digestive health and upset stomachs. Edgar Cayce, the godfather of holistic medicine, believed that one of the major keys to health and wellness is good digestive health. And I really, if you've never heard of him, and I can't believe how many people haven't, please look into him. There's tons of resources out there. He was like the sleeping prophet. He did these prophecies when he was like in a paralytic state of consciousness called the World Affairs Events readings or something like that. And he talked about like the role Russia was going to play against Zionism, and spoke out avidly against Zionism. And it's really most of the problem with our world is the Zionist Jews. If you watch my other presentations, you'll see I go avidly into that. I'm not anti-Semitic. I basically go in and explain who the good Jews are, who the bad Jews are, and my feelings on that. Another therapeutic spice that I use is oil of oregano. Specifically oil of oregano. It is good for digestive, respiratory, and immune support. It's also a good detoxifier for the pineal gland. Apple cider vinegar with the mother is also good for dietary health and detoxification of the pineal gland. It's also good for people who are like overweight or trying to lose weight. It really cuts your appetite as well. Ultimately, our mental stability and overall level of consciousness play a major part in our overall health and wellness. Ideally, we'd all love to live on a nice warm beach soaking up free vitamin D3 all day, but most of us must find a balance and a happy medium in our lives. On a side note, living near the ocean actually allows you to intake electrolytes, which are impactful for our health, on a side note. One reason why the rich elite people want to live in the warm ocean climates is because of this. They won't tell you this about the electrolytes, but it's just a simple fact. Studies actually show the contrary to this, that people that live in colder climates tend to live longer. While on the topic of the rich elites, they're able to afford many things and luxuries that, the finer things of life and better health and wellness that many people are, like regular people are not able to, or I guess kind of have to find a happy medium. Massage therapy is also, a big one. It kind of stimulates the circulatory system, or the cardiovascular system. You can see here how blood is like, it all flows. And another thing is socks. If you wear very tight socks around your ankles, it basically cuts off the blood flow and like really inhibits your natural flow of blood. It's kind of like a deep suppression there as well. I like to just kind of mention that. And also you get into like positioning of the body, feng shui, another interesting thing to get into. And there's a thing called Fowler's position. It really was into thousands of years ago by Chinese, Japanese, when you get into feng shui. But Fowler's position, there was this doctor, I believe, last name Fowler, and when you look at all the pretty much every single medical examination table in every doctor's office, they all have like certain positionings that they go to, and it has to do with this as well. It's called Fowler's position, and you can also get into like kind of like the inverse of that. I forget what the scientific name is, but very interesting stuff. There's also certain stuff that's very deeply suppressed that the elites get into, like jewelry and crystals, and specifically jewelry with certain shapes and geometric designs and various things they get into, colors and gemstones and so forth. There's a certain like spectral energy or an aura that basically this stuff has when you wear it. I can't really explain it, but maybe you'll understand somewhat. Other big things that they're into are stem cells as well. There's major enigmatic nature to understanding how they work, but not just the stem cells from fetuses, but also from plant stem cells. There's a lot of suppressed medical science even with plant stem cells, like squash, cucumbers, and God only knows, there's many other things. Like I particularly think that foods that grow very fast, that like like basically the cytokinesis is like rapid cell replication, and good for you, good for your health, good for your mind. Look into it if you're interested. NADH is also a new trend among the elites. They've been into other things for many years, red wine and so forth. Well, on the topic of enigmatic things, magnets also fall into this category and contain an infinite current that can be used for healing and stimulation of various chakra points on the body. The book The Body Electric I mentioned earlier gets deep into healing with electrical current and stimulation using different electrodes. Ultimately, I believe that this is a major aspect of our biomagnetism. It is widely suppressed in the medical community and not even taught in many $100,000-$200,000 a year medical schools, at least in this country. Early in the book, it also mentions how kings would commission alchemists to make special dyes for their garments. This is odd, but I have found that wearing certain colors creates a channeling of divine energy and intuition, like also the stimulation of the pineal and so forth. I know I'm not alone on this. I know other people know this as well. Particularly the colors blue, teal, aqua, turquoise, and purple create this effect for me. Also the colors red and colors in between red and black and colors in between red and purple kind of get like outside the visible spectrum of light. Consider the regular Voronoi Biv color spectrum is like a small portion of what humans can actually see, and it can all be like translated to frequencies. Once again, it all comes together. Someday I'd like to do a much bigger presentation on my hypothetical model of the universe, but at this point I think I'm going to save that for down the road. I don't want to drive